From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, markets rally on word of a possible thaw in the trade war with China that may include a big buy of U.S. soybeans.
I think they did the right thing.
The Trump administration officially makes changes to the waters of the U.S. rule, as new numbers from USDA point to the struggles farmers are facing with this year's crop, as we still contend with last year's.
USDA reduced the demand portion of the old crop, and we really thought that that would be coming because of two things that we've been concerned about, which is ethanol and exports.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. We have lots to get to this morning. The Trump administration announcing major changes to the controversial waters of the U.S. rule, markets soaring after positive news on China trade issues. But first, we want to get to the new numbers just in from USDA and its September production report. This is the first time this year USDA has been able to get their people out into the fields to check out this year's crop for themselves, revising the numbers downward. It puts corn production at 13.79 billion bushels and yields now at 168.2 bushels per acre. That's a drop of more than a bushel. You see on the screen how that compares to the August report and what Pro Farmer estimated on Crop Tour last month. Moving on to soybeans, with USDA pegging production at 3.63 billion bushels or 47.9 bushels to the acre, more than a half bushel loss there. Both corn and soybeans still coming in above trade estimates.
The USDA lowered yield, and I think that'll hopefully set a precedent that they're going to continue that trend as we move into the next WASDE reports into October and November. So I think a lot of the trade was concerned that USDA may potentially increase corn yield because of the growing conditions we've seen recently. Some of these warmer temperatures that have brought in some needed GDUs to help push the crop along, but they did lower it instead. So with them lowering both soybean and corn yield, I would expect that as we get into the October WASDE report, the trade will be trying to price in another yield reduction at that point.
Taking a look at ending stocks, corn carryout for old crop now estimated at 2.44 billion bushels. That's up from 2.36 in August, calling for less corn used for ethanol, down 25 million bushels, and it also raised higher corn beginning stocks up 9 million bushels, a number higher than trade estimates there. Old crop soybeans now estimated with ending stocks of just over 1 billion bushels, the number based on higher exports up 45 million bushels, and lower ending stocks. New crop ending stocks, they were lower as well. That's down quite a bit from August and lower than trade guesses.
When we look at old crop, we continue to see some changes on the demand side for corn, some additional challenges with exports thanks to a large Brazilian crop, projected Brazilian crop, and just their sheer amount of exports that have been coming out here in the last couple of weeks.
For a complete look at the report and insights, make sure to check out agweb.com. We'll also have more with Brian Splitt coming up in analysis. The commodity markets taking off on Thursday on good news about China. Reuters reporting Chinese importers bought at least 10 cargoes of U.S. soybeans, or 600,000 metric tons. It happened amid rumors an interim trade deal with China is in the works. Bloomberg reporting Trump administration officials were discussing offering a limited trade agreement, one that would even roll back some U.S. tariffs. That would be in exchange for China making buys of U.S. ag and commitments on intellectual property. Bloomberg reporting it got the information from 5 people familiar with the matter, but a senior White House official countering that to CNBC, saying the U.S. is, quote, absolutely not, end quote, considering an interim deal. President Trump announcing on Twitter he would postpone a planned October 1st tariff hike on Chinese imports, and then later saying, quote, it is expected that China will be buying large amounts of our agricultural products, end quote. China announcing earlier in the week some U.S. industrial chemicals would be exempt from tariff hikes.
You saw what they did. They took tariffs off certain things, a lot of things.
And you're happy about that?
Well, I think they did the right thing. I think it was good for them, but they took them off. Yeah, I think it was a gesture, okay? But it was a big move. People were shocked. I wasn't shocked.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says deputy-level meetings will take place next week with the Chinese delegation, with formal talks planned for next month. Thursday, while much of the focus was on USDA's latest reports on trade, the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers announcing plans to repeal the 2015 Waters of the U.S. rule. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon is in the newsroom and joins us with details on the late-breaking story. Betsy.
Clinton EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler is announcing the agency and the Army Corps of Engineers under the Trump administration is finalizing its repeal of that 2015 Clean Water Rule, also known as WOTUS. For farm groups, the news is being hailed as a victory. Officials say the rollback will provide more certainty for farmers, home builders, and other businesses, and hand over more power of water quality decisions to individual states. The 2015 rule gave the federal government authority over 60% of the nation's bodies of water. Many farm groups thought it had the potential to go even further, calling it overreach.
This is something that we've been working on for a long time. It's been a long time in the making, and we can finally breathe a sigh of relief that the 2015 WOTUS rule is over. Administrator Wheeler's action today in signing the repeal rule means that the Obama WOTUS rule is erased from the Code of Federal Regulations. It means that producers across the countryside can breathe a sigh of relief and rest easy.
Critics of the repeal say the move will result in the loss of wetlands and will not protect the nation's waterways from pollution and more. Wheeler says the repeal is the first step in order to put a new WOTUS rule in place. He believes that could happen at the end of this year or early 2020. That definition was introduced earlier in the year.
There's a lot more work going on in the fields these days. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman has more. Today's crop comments. Mike.
Thanks, Clinton. Well, it's harvest time for cotton, almonds, and several other crops right now. This video shared with us by a man in Saskatchewan. He said he was combining lentils. He says his daughter brought him dinner and then took over the wheel for a while. Looked like a great evening to do a little harvesting. Taking a look at the wind speed forecast, we are going to see fairly windy conditions starting off today, northern plains and the Great Lakes. You can see as we head through time, then we're going to increase that a little bit, especially across the Great Lakes by later on in the day, and some winds in West Texas at that point. The winds tomorrow morning started off in the eastern lakes in New England, and that will continue to push east, and parts of the plains, northern Rockies turn a little windy as well. I'll have more in your forecast coming up.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
All right, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation around USDA's latest reports preparing for harvest prices. That's next in analysis. And later, rice harvest is rolling down south. We'll take you to Louisiana for a look at this season's crop.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Positive news about China sent the market soaring on Thursday, with soybeans and hogs going way up. Here's more now from the scene.
We got kind of a lackluster report, nothing to write home about, but prices are acting a little bit out of the ordinary. We're rallying on a not so friendly report, which is always good to see when you can't see the market break down on bearish news. That is a little bit of a bullish indicator. Well, now as far as the soybeans are concerned, same type of deal. We got to move out above 880 to 883. This was a resistance and marks higher highs now that we're out above here, which opens the door for a run at psychologically and technically significant $9 handle. Now, wrapping things up with the lean hog market, December is the month of interest. Haven't traded a lot today, which is a good thing. It's lock limit higher. We expect to see this momentum carry over into Friday's session into the weekend. And ultimately, we can get out above technical resistance at 66.50. There is not a lot of technical resistance until where we broke down and rolled over in July, which comes in at 80. So there's a good opportunity there.
All right, back with Brian Splitt of agmarket.net. Brian, the numbers for another month are out. Like it or not, this is what we'll be debating until the next report. Where do markets go from here?
Well, it does look like the corn market may have solidified a low. We had a low earlier in the week of 352 and a quarter in December corn, low today of 353 and a quarter. So trade is already talking about a potential double bottom in the low 350s. I think a close today above the previous contract low that was made this past spring in May of 363 and three quarters would add some significance to a strong close today. Really, the market is still trending down from the late July highs, and that trend line will be coming in towards the end of the week here tomorrow at 372-ish. So I'd like to see that trend line violated and start seeing some stronger technical buying coming in. I do think the USDA has set the stage to lower yield further in October and November for both corn and soybeans, for what it's worth.
Now, as harvest prepares to move north, it won't be long before we've got to do something with this grain. Do we have any strategies for fall?
Well, I think right now, if you have hedges and those are not all going to be delivered in fall, you need to be focusing on rolling those out to capture carry. The spread between December and July has been as wide recently as 30 cents. And if the yield continues to come down in the next couple months, I would expect that spread should continue to narrow. Same thing for soybeans. If you have hedges on soybeans in November and you're not going to be delivering off the November contract, the November-July spread has been as wide as just over 50 cents recently. It's still around 45 to 46. So I think capturing that carry on corn and soybeans that are going to be going into the bin is very important right now. If you don't have bushels sold right now, I don't think I would really be in a huge rush to sell them at current values. I think based on the report that we had today, I would expect the USDA to continue to reduce the yield further in the next couple of months. I think we've already addressed the worst of the old crop demand with corn today raising the beginning stocks. And I think there could potentially be a surprise on the quarterly stock report at the end of the month based on the basis levels that we're seeing in the country right now.
All right, as always, appreciate it, Brian. Thank you. We'll be back with more Ag Day and a check of weather in just a moment.
To contact Brian Splitt at Ag Market, call 844-4AG-MARKET or visit their website at www.agmarket.net. The IBM Watson Decision Platform for Agriculture, helping to feed a hungry world with the power of AI.
More video from that first snow of the season that was spotted earlier this week in Utah. This is near Brighton, Utah, in the Wasatch Mountains, not too far from Salt Lake City, making for a wintry looking scene there, Mike, and bringing a little bit of moisture with it. But if you look at the drought monitor, there are some spots getting drier.
I know there are, and one of them is northern Indiana where we're located. I know my yard's getting dry, but there are other places even worse across especially the southern plains of the United States, as you can see right there across Texas and Oklahoma. We've continued to see the dry pockets across many parts of the southeast as well. And like I talked about, northwestern Indiana, Michigan, and a little strip across parts of Illinois and Iowa just seem to have gotten a little drier, and we're seeing moderate drought in some of those places, as well as some worsening conditions in the desert southwest. Taking a look at a month ago, you can see there wasn't nearly as much orange on the map. So we have continued to kind of add to places anyway. Hasn't gotten a whole lot worse in the southeast, except over the last week or two. We're starting to see those expanded areas of orange there, and so that's something that we have to watch in that part of the country. We are going to see some moisture as we start today across the upper Mississippi Valley into the western Great Lakes, just scattered storms along the cold front. We'll be watching this tropical system in the Bahamas area once again, not the same part anyway. That'll be heading toward the southeast, so if you live in the southeastern part of the country, keep an eye on that. Cold front then, just a few spots later today, kind of unusual for the afternoon hours along that front, seeing a shower or thunderstorm. And then tomorrow morning, a little bit of activity, eastern portions of the Great Lakes, not much along the second front. The third front then storm system will bring in some moisture to the far northwestern sections as we head through the afternoon hours tomorrow. And you can see a few more showers and thunderstorms along the cold front as we head through the afternoon as well. There's the precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours, mainly upper Mississippi Valley down into parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. Adding in the next 36 hours, we'll add some in the mid-Atlantic, southern portions of the Appalachians, and a little bit across the Great Lakes and some showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures going to stay very muggy in the southeast, southern plains, a lot cooler in the north. Afternoon temperatures only near 60 in places. Lows tonight in the 50s in those areas, and then highs tomorrow once again 60s to near 70, but it stays very muggy southern plains into the southeast. There's the jet stream. That ridge is being pushed eastward, so we do have a cool down for a few days like we just showed you across the Great Lakes into the northeast, but the ridge builds right back up according to our computer model in the middle of the country. That'll bring the heat back for 2 or 3 more days before this next trough digs into the plains later next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. For Flagstaff, Arizona, rather warm today, lots of sunshine, high around 80. Wausau, Wisconsin, mostly cloudy, breezy, rather cool, high of 60. And Greensboro, North Carolina, humid with a thunderstorm or two around, high up around 80.
Most of us take the grocery store for granted. Up next, we'll see how a Kansas community is solving the issue of its food desert.
Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
How far do you have to go to get to the grocery store? Several places in the country are so-called food deserts, where food is too far away and getting to it is difficult. Our friends over at Kansas State report one community is doing something about it.
When you're able to bring a grocery store into an area that not only increases the health of the residents in the surrounding areas, but also provides new development opportunities, suddenly that is seen as a place where people want to be and want to be located near.
Being in Wyandotte County, being in a community that for a lot of time has been ranked as the most unhealthiest county, it's good to have a grocery store that has a farmer market in there, has a market that's driven by community people. So having that access to food is very important.
We have about 18 areas in our county that are designated as food deserts, where those residents, those 27,000 residents, can't really access that food because the store is not close or because of transportation or barriers that make it difficult for them to get to healthy food options. One of the reasons K-State got involved was we were able to do listening sessions with the community to see what kind of products they would like in this store that could be healthy and affordable. And so the MERC has been taking that information so that they could use it to actually stock products that this community would prefer.
For decades, literally decades, this area has been in a food desert, the downtown as well as the surrounding neighborhoods. So this is an amazing first step at actually providing affordable and healthy food to quite a lot of residents and people who also work in the downtown area.
It makes me more proud because my hope is that once we see what happens here, we can start doing it in the northeast area of KCK. We can start seeing it in the black communities and the communities that are underrepresented and poor, because those communities also deserve it as well.
From the desert to the delta, rice harvest is rolling in Louisiana, but as the grain comes in, it hasn't been easy getting to the finish. That story next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
From planting to harvest, Louisiana rice farmers have had a year they would like to forget. USDA says about 80% of the crop is now harvested in the state. And as Craig Gautreaux reports, not once during the season did farmers have ideal growing conditions.
Louisiana rice farmers have been behind the 8 ball all season long. Late planting because of wet weather, a crop that emerged unevenly because of cool weather, and a hurricane when the plants were pollinating were just some of the problems they encountered. These problems have caused yields to suffer.
Yields so far this season in southwest Louisiana have been very disappointing. Most growers are telling me that they're probably 15 to 20% lower than average.
The cool, wet weather early in the season led to uneven emergence, which affected both weed control and fertilization efforts. Then Hurricane Barry came ashore with its wind and rain. The major flooding that was predicted didn't materialize, but the effect of the storm would not be known until harvest.
I think a lot of people downplayed how much damage the wind and rain during flowering how much damage that actually caused. I think it caused a lot more than we initially thought.
Harvesting conditions have been wet, which will have a negative effect on the second crop rice many producers grow. Farmers like to have their first crop cut by August 15th, but this year they are running behind.
This year, because we've been so wet, it's delayed harvest. We're also harvesting, in some cases, on muddy ground, which will rut up rice fields, which in turn will reduce our ratoon yields.
Rice harvesting has just begun in northeast Louisiana, and the crop there appears to be in better shape. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
About 75% of the state's 400,000 rice acres are grown in the southwestern part of the state, and the second crop of rice is expected to be harvested starting in late October. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.